As I need to move the rear rack to my new Brompton, I thought I would show you how this is done. The rack is attached to the bike in 2 points. First, above the rear axle by a nut and bolt on each side. Second, it is threaded through the rear brake caliper, as you can see here. The bolt on the sprocket side is inserted from inside out, which means that in order to take it off, you will have to remove the rear wheel. So we first remove the small hub chain. Next, with a 15mm spanner, remove the bolt and the spacer on the tensioner side, and the bolt on the left side. Remove the tooth spacer on the left side, and shaking the bike here can help with getting it loose. Next, remove the chain tensioner. With a 15mm spanner, loosen the bolt and remove the other chain spacer. Now you will be able to remove the wheel. With two 8mm spanners, remove the nut and bolt at the bottom of the rack. Next, loosen the gear cable. Now let's start to remove the brakes. Loosen the large bolt that fixes the brake calipers with a 10mm spanner. Before you do this, it is always a good idea, I find, to take a picture as a reference. This will show you how all bolts and spaces are fitted exactly, and so you will be able, when you get to the time that you're reassembling your rack, to have a reference and check exactly how it is mounted correctly. Now gently pull the rack backwards to remove the long bolt from the frame and separate the rack from the brake caliper, like so. On a previous video I explained the reason why I think it is important to remove and be able to replace the rack on a Brompton. To remind, the reason is that especially if you take your Brompton on a flight, and you pack it, the bicycle of course is folded, and what happens is that you've got all the weight of the bicycle is just standing on the rack. And if the luggage is mishandled, something which unfortunately can happen at an airport, what happens is that these stays could easily be bent if a lot of force is applied. When these stays are bent, basically what's happening is that the mudguard, the rear mudguard, will touch on your wheel and will prevent you, from cycling. So anytime you're in that situation, the only way out is to be able to, for example, remove the rack. And by doing that, one solution would be, for example, to at least, once it's removed, to remove the mudguard. That way you might find that you have enough clearance for the wheel, for example, to spin. Or if it's really badly bent, your only choice is really to remove the old rack. And then either, if it's possible, to find a replacement, or if you have a setup like I do when you have a rucksack, coming to the worst, you would have at least the ability to ride with your rucksack on, which is not ideal, but it will be a way at least to continue the trip. So let's have a look and see how you mount the rack on the bike. Slide the mudguard through the brake calipers and the rack above it, like you see me doing here. Now push the bolt through both of them. Add the first curved spacer to sit on the curved frame. From the opposite side of the frame, add the other curved spacer. And a thin washer. Now it is time to screw the plastic stopper at the end, and keep it loose at this stage, as later you will need to adjust its length for it to function properly when the bike is folded. Now we are back to the 2 nuts and bolts that fix the stays of the rack at the bottom. Push the bolt with 1 spacer from the outside towards the inside of the frame and thread it through the small hole in the frame. Fix it with a nut to the other side. Here just pay attention, on the chain side the bolt and spacers are pushed the opposite way, so from the inside to the outside, in order to not interfere with the transmission parts. Fix both sides well with the 2 8mm spanners. Now I temporarily fix the brake cable. Of course you can do this later too, as it will need to be adjusted once the tire is in place. Finally we put back the rear wheel. Place the tooth spacer and fix it with a bolt on the left and on the right side. To put back the chain tensioner, I like to fold the bike, as I find it much easier from this side. Push it through with a short arm over the chain. Pick the chain up with 1 finger and pull it towards the back while sliding it in place on the long arm. Now everything is in place and you can thread in the small hub chain, which will need to be adjusted accordingly for the hub to work correctly. To do so, put the hub gear on gear number 2 and screw the barrel up or down until from the viewing hole on the large bolt, you can see the metal part of the small chain protruding by 1 or 2 millimeters. Now double check that all bolts are correctly fixed and moving the brake caliper so that it is centered and balanced. Here I loosen the stopper bolt so that I can fold the bike and see if it is 2 mm from the lower seat post, as it is recommended. I hope this helps some of you, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Bye for now.